yours, cause I got mine. I'm talking Payoneer, Netspend, Venmo, Stash. Too many ways for you to run my cash.
Check reparation, 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 check reparation.
Well, if you talking compensation, it's about that time. You get everybody.
Blessed risings, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you are tapping in from. You got to keep in mind that Keep It P podcast is a global show, and today we'll be discussing Missouri, the new haven for pot smokers in U.S. Midwest. We'll be talking about that and more when we return from these brief messages on this episode of B1 Health and Wellness.
Music Tuesday. Music TV.
This is a Yahoo from AFP article by Ulysses Baylor. Missouri, the new haven for pot smokers in U.S. Midwest. Sisters Jury Burgett and Tanya Knight, both in their 60s, smell various marijuana buds, assessing their options at a trendy dispensary in Missouri. Ooh, it's trendy. It's the in thing. Ooh, it's shiny, bright, and new. They drove 3 hours from Kansas, where recreational cannabis use is still illegal, to make their purchase. So, you going to buy it in Missouri, then transporting it across state lines, wouldn't that be illegal? Are you drug traffickers? Wouldn't you be considered drug traffickers? I mean, isn't that what that is? When you bring one drug from one state to another state? Isn't that drug trafficking? It goes on to say they will not legalize it in Kansas. They won't give us medical usage, says 64-year-old Burgett, clad in a denim jacket. We got to let you know she's a hipster, even though she lives in the conservative Midwest, and she may be conservative herself. She's not part of that woke movement, but she's still trendy, and she's down with the fashions. The shop with a drive-through window is in a rundown part of the ghetto of Kansas City. Now, you just said it was trendy. It's a trendy dispensary in the rundown part of Kansas City, just off the highway and over the border in Missouri, the largely conservative Midwestern state that is the latest to legalize the recreational use of cannabis. Do you see how the lamestream media hits you with all that verbiage? They're all over the place. That was word salad. The new regulation approved by voters in a referendum in November has sparked an economic boom for the Show Me State, fueled by thousands of pot smokers from the 8 states along its borders, most of which have not legalized the drug. So we have a lot of drug trafficking and what's going on. It's fueled by thousands of illegal drug traffickers from the 8 states along its borders. It goes on to say, what many of black people are still in prison for, how they're celebrating it in this article, and even it's a darn shame they just can't get some old good old fashioned pot. They're 64-year-old white women wearing denim. And they ought to be able to get them a little old pot and traffic it across state lines, breaking federal laws. Yeah, no big deal. But lock up all the darkies that have done it. It continues to say, for Burgett, making a long drive is easier than getting it off the streets, which is illegal, and so is driving to a new state and trafficking it across state lines. That is also illegal. It continues, she ends up buying chewing gum. It's just chewing gum. See, she didn't even get the hard stuff. It's just good old Hubba Bubba. Wrigley's Chew. You grab the chewing gum infused with THC, the active ingredient in cannabis, one of the popular edibles in a country where more than half the 50 states have decriminalized marijuana in some form. But that doesn't help all the locked up black people, does it? All while you're celebrating little white Thelma and Louise, who have drove over the border to procure some good old-fashioned illegal narcotics so that they may traffic it across state lines. It continues. Burgett, who worked as a dietitian, she's in the health industry, so she knows her stuff now. And Knight, a pastry chef by training, are now both retired. The pastry chef, she can make all type of edibles with it. So based upon their backgrounds, these are professionals here. These aren't just wayward, hippie, pot smoking, woke grandmamas. They have responsibilities. They're law-abiding American citizens. Before Missouri's new law took effect, the pair used to drive from Kansas to Colorado, more drug trafficking, an 8-hour trip in each direction to make their purchases. The Mountain State was one of the first to liberalize its cannabis consumption laws. That journey cost us money, almost as much as the marijuana, said Knight, who suffers from arthritis and depression. Now let's give the reasons. Let's validate the illegal behavior. Let's give it validation. Now we go just 3 hours, and it's really good for you. It's really good because she's a dietitian. Remember that. So she can tell you it's really good for you. She added a small packet in her hand and a smile on her face. Crazy. Of the states on Missouri's border, only Illinois has moved to decriminalize recreational cannabis use, meaning that dispensaries like the one in Kansas City, one of several proper cannabis locations, are sitting on a potential gold mine. At that particular outlet, more than half of its buyers are from outside Missouri. So more than half of its buyers are criminals. Legally purchasing narcotics and illegally trafficking them across multiple state jurisdictions. We're surrounded by so many states. They're just coming to us from everywhere. It's crazy, says employee Chris Brown, his straggly hair escaping from a multicolored hat. across Missouri. Cannabis sales in February, when recreational use was legalized, totaled 103 million as compared with 37.2 million the month before, according to state health department. They really blew us away, said Jack Cardetti, spokesman for the Missouri Cannabis Trade Association. Moken Trade, which projects the local market will soar to more than 1.2 billion in a year's time. I ain't gonna sit here and talk about all this money they making while we got plenty of black people locked up. In the end, 53% of voters said yes to pot in a conservative-leaning state. At the Illicit Gardens facility, one employee carefully flips buds while in the room across the hall. Products are packaged up, joints are rolled on the site as well. We buy just one, then we'll stop somewhere, smoke it, says Knight. Then we'll go on home. So you drive 3 hours to smoke a joint and then to go home. Stop it. What did we learn here today, boys and girls? And why did I do this article? Showcasing the fact of all the black people still locked up for this jovial drug that it's just all good. Everybody's doing it. Look, the little grandmas is doing it. Even the grandmas is doing it, don't you? Well, then why don't you free all the locked up black people then? That you have locked up for doing the exact same thing that you're celebrating in this article. Drug trafficking. That is what you're celebrating. Drug trafficking by these old white grandmas. That's what's happening here. Point blank. It's very simple. I ain't gonna hold you. Just gonna mold you, scold you, and fold you about being off code. I'm gonna leave you with 4 words like we always do. Love, peace, blessings, and maloha. We out the Doha for show high. Gotta go high. You know we love you. And currently, we just ain't gonna hit you with no commercials. We ain't gonna do it. We ain't gonna do it at all. But what I am gonna do is remind you of why we do this.
Music TV.